Today, well, first of all, this weekend is a very special weekend. Do you know why? It's not anybody's birthday. It's not anybody's birthday, so I said it's a special day. This weekend is a special weekend.
No, so my sister.
Yes, but today, this weekend, she had her birthday before this weekend. So this weekend is a very special weekend. Yes, right? It's Easter weekend. Did you notice the songs that we sang in song service? Christ the Lord is risen today. So what is Easter about?
Easter is about having fun and
It's about having fun and enjoy. But in terms of the Bible, because Easter is actually part of the Christian calendar, there's something very special that happened on Easter. What is it?
Jesus rose.
Okay, so it's about Jesus rose, but before he rose, he had to.
Praise God.
Jesus had to. Before he rose, what happened? He had to die. Yes. So this is the weekend where Christians all over the world celebrate the death and resurrection of Christ. Did you know that? That's what Easter's all about. Okay? And so I'm going to tell you this story. We're not going to start off with Jesus. We're going to tell you this story that you all probably know, you've heard about, right? So many years before Jesus was even born, the children of Israel were in Egypt. They were in Egypt. Yes. And when they were in Egypt, were they having a great time? Were they there partying in Egypt? No. What happened? What happened to them in Egypt?
They were slaves.
They were enslaved by the Egyptians. The Egyptians turned them into slaves and made them work really hard. You know this, Rosie? The story might sound familiar to you as we go along. And so the Pharaoh that was there in charge, right, he made them work really hard. He didn't pay them everything. And they couldn't worship God, right, because they were enslaved. And so God raised up Moses. Right? And Moses, that's a whole other story, but eventually he came back and he told Pharaoh, God said, let my people go so that they may worship me. They may worship me. And Pharaoh said, no, I'm not going to let them go. And so God struck Egypt with plagues. Remember this story now? So the river turned to blood, and then there were frogs everywhere, and gnats and flies, and the cattle died, and boils got on people. It was just a mess. And every time after each plague, right, Moses would go to Pharaoh and say, God is saying to let my people go. That's why all these bad things are happening. And Pharaoh would say, no, I'm not letting you go, because who's going to build my pyramids? Who's going to do all these things if I let you go? This is a free workforce. Never. I'm never letting the Israelites go. Right? So this went on, and finally we get to the last plague, right? So God tells Moses, go tell Pharaoh that I'm going to send this plague. And this one is going to be so bad. It's going to be worse than everything that went before. And Pharaoh will have to let you all go. Now the plague right before that was darkness. 3 days and 3 nights of total darkness. Can you imagine that? 3 days and 3 nights. It was very scary. But God said this last plague is going to be even worse than that. And so God told Moses, go to the children of Israel and tell them, this is what I'm going to do. At a certain time, I'm going to come through Egypt, and I'm going to strike the firstborn of every family. The oldest child of every family will die. And it doesn't matter if you're rich or if you're poor, if you're the Pharaoh or if you're the person that works in his kitchen, all the firstborns of every family. And not only am I going to strike the firstborn of every family, even the animals too. The firstborn of the livestock.
Wasn't that a plague itself?
This is
all the livestock.
No. Well, so now This is really scary, right? But God told Moses, but you know what? I'm going to give my people a sign. What I want you to do, okay, on that day, because Pharaoh's going to let you go, right? After this, Pharaoh's going to let you go. So you'll have to get ready, okay? So on that day, I want you all to select a lamb or a goat, right? You know where I'm going. I want you to select a lamb or a goat, and it must be pure, without spot or wrinkle, right? And on that day, you're going to kill the goat. You're going to take the blood of the lamb. The lamb, you're going to take the blood of that lamb, and you're going to put it on your doorpost, right? So you see how that's a door? If that were your front door, you have to put it across the top of your door, the outside. Okay? With the blood of the lamb. Yeah, with the blood of the lamb. And then you're going to take that lamb or that goat, and you're going to roast it. You're going to roast it. Okay? And then for dinner, you're going to eat it. Okay? But you're going to eat that lamb or that goat with some bitter herbs. Something that tastes bitter. Does it taste good? No. You have to eat it with bitter herbs. And he said, when you eat it, you have to be fully dressed with your shoes on, your hat on, if you put your clothes on, because when Pharaoh lets you go, you all have to go. Okay? So that's what he told them. And so that's exactly what the children of Israel did. Because God said, when the angel comes through, when I come through, if I see the blood on the door, nothing will happen inside your homes. The firstborn in that house will live. But all of the houses that don't have blood on the door, the firstborn will die. Moses went through all the Israelites and told them that. So this is what you need to do on this particular day when this happens. So that day came, and the Israelites faithfully, they had already selected their lamb and their goat, and they killed the lamb and put the blood on the door. And then they roasted the lamb. By this time, it was probably nighttime. They were all dressed up with all their things packed up, ready to go. Right? Because that's what Moses said. And when it was finished roasting, they ate it with bitter herbs. Bitter herbs. Now, do you think what God said came true? Yes. That night, people started crying. Can you imagine? A whole country full of crying people at the same time. Can you imagine that? Because everybody had a firstborn, in their house, probably. Maybe their kid, or maybe they themselves were the firstborn of in their family, right? From the Pharaoh's palace all the way to the poorest person you could imagine. The firstborn was struck, right? Everywhere. Everywhere. This was devastating. Even the Pharaoh himself lost his own child. Right? So when Moses went up to him, Pharaoh was like, just go. Go, go, go. And so Moses went back and he told him, this is our deliverance. Let's go. And everybody was ready, right? So they left. And that is how they left Egypt, and they left bondage, and they left slavery behind. Now, well, hold on. So now let me ask you some questions. God told him to eat the lamb, right, the goat, and to eat the bitter herbs. The lamb, what do you think the lamb represented? Because the lamb represented something.
Christ.
It represented Christ. How did it represent Christ?
It represented him as his death.
It represented his death? Okay, yeah. But how? What's the connection? Can you kind of make a connection? So this meal that they ate, right? They call this the Passover, right? The Passover. Because the angel passed over their houses, right? Because they had what on the door?
Blood.
Yeah, right? So it passed over them, right? They call this the Passover. And then God told Moses to tell the children of Israel, every year they had to celebrate this. Every year they had to celebrate the Passover. Because the Passover marked the deliverance from the Egyptians, from slavery, right? So if the lamb represents Christ, and and they ate this lamb, right? The day that they were being delivered from slavery and from Egypt. What do you think Christ's, like, so Christ also represents, right? Through Christ, yes, through Christ's death, we have freedom too, don't we? Don't we? But freedom from what? What kind of slavery? Right? Are you a slave right now? We have freedom from the slavery of sin. Because each one of us, right? We are sinful. And being sinful is a really bad thing. But Christ died, right? To free us from that. Right? So that whole thing, right? Of the lamb and eating the lamb, right? Or the goat, right? And the blood on the door, right? That means that's Christ's blood. Christ's blood saves us, right? From the penalty, from death. From death, right? Because the people who didn't have the blood on the door, the people who didn't have blood on the door, they died. That was the penalty, death. Yeah. So, bringing this back to this weekend, right? Fast forward many, right? Thousands of years. Fast forward. Christ was born. Do you know that Christ died during Passover? Wow. He actually did. Wow. Right? So that means that he really was the lamb, right? He really was the lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. And because his blood was shed, we have victory, right? We don't have to die, right? We have been saved from the slavery of sin. And that is what we celebrate this weekend. And actually, Jewish people celebrated the Passover this week, right? Because they still happen at the same time. Passover and Easter, right? They go together. And so that is what we celebrate this weekend. So whenever it's Easter, remember, Easter is not about bunnies and eggs and having fun and wearing new clothes, right?
Right. Amen.
It's about the death of Christ, about the sacrifice of Christ and what that means for us. That because Christ died, we can go free.
Glory to God. Amen.